in the military,
Yep.
and he gets a Medal of Honor or something, doesn't he? I think
Yeah.
it's based on a true story.
It's a true story, and he
That's
serves
right.
as a medic
It's a great one.
and
It's
just
a great
goes
one.
and pulls like 100 guys off
Yeah.
this ridge one night.
That
And
is a
stuff.
great one.
And I was just go get one more.
Yeah.
Go get one more, and it's just
Yeah.
it was really impressive that one more. So
Yeah.
if we wanted to tie this back to a self-development, right? Just
go get
one more, right?
Oh, that's a great one. Well, good day, Steve.
Hello, Steve.
How the heck are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic.
Well, that is terrific. Welcome, everybody, to the Steve and Steve Show. We have a drink here today, Steve. We decided that this is Memorial Day weekend coming up, and we're going to just have kind of a red, white, and blue Memorial Day conversation, right?
Yep. And when we publish this one, it'll be the Sunday before Memorial Day,
Oh, well, there you go.
2020. Just in
So,
case they're watching it like
Yeah, because this could be years from now.
exactly.
So we've got the drink this evening, or today, is cherry juice. This is tart 100% cherry juice from the Colorado Cherry Company. This is a good little drink for me because when I was growing up in Boulder, Colorado, we used to, on Memorial Days, 4th of July's, oftentimes we would head out of Boulder and up the canyon to Estes Park. Well, you had to go through Lyons, Colorado. And there was this cider place there called Merlino's Cider. And I mean to tell you, my brothers and sisters and I, and any cousins we had with it, we absolutely loved that cider place. This is the closest thing that I have found to Merlino's Cider. So I thought it would be a nice thing for you and I to have a little tart red cherry juice for our Memorial Day.
Are there a lot of like cherry tree orchards in Colorado?
You know, no, I don't. I mean, not that I know of, but for some reason, cider is a big deal. And you've been up to Estes, and they've got all kinds of kind of eclectic, candies and candy apples and taffy, saltwater taffy, and stuff like that. So, cheers.
Cheers.
See what you think. Whole bunch of different ciders at this place. But I like the cherry one.
It is. It's good. All right. It's good.
It's tart.
Yeah, it's tart.
Needs a little whiskey. Okay.
All right. So the topic for this weekend is around Memorial, right? So it's the whole concept of Memorial Day is to remember those that have passed that served our country.
Right. So, I mean, you have some folks in your family, right, that served in the military.
Yep.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? How far back does yours go?
It's my dad's generation that I know of.
Okay.
So my dad served 20 years
Oh,
in
fantastic.
the Air Force.
Cheers to your dad, huh?
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years. So 10 enlisted, and then 10 as an officer.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So
He had the best of both worlds. When you start in enlisted, you know how your troops are, or your airmen in the Air Force. And then when you become an officer, they say those are the best officers out there. I say that anyway.
and I think that's at least the stories I got from my dad.
Yeah.
He would imply that was the case.
There's a lot of West Pointers and a lot of straight up shake and bake officers that are probably going to disagree with that, and you can go ahead and disagree, but
And zoomies.
my best officers were always ones
Yeah.
that went up through the ranks and came in because they understood what the rank and file were doing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, one of the stories he tells is when he was an officer, and I believe he was either at OTS or OTC,
OTC?
and
OCT. Officer Candidate School, OCS.
maybe OCS. Well, I don't know what.
Anyway.
Whatever they call it, right? It might be a different in there.
Yeah.
Anyways, what he would say is that they had this title that the candidates or cadets would give to the commanding officer of their units, the title is Captain Demerit, right? And so traditionally, the officer that gave out the most demerits would be called Captain Demerit.
Okay.
So about a week into the program that my dad started for the summer, the commanding officer asked, "Who's Captain Demerit?" Like, he wanted to know who was that, and they pointed to my dad, and the guy shook his head. "How can he? He's only handed out 5." And so the story that is when he handed out demerits, it was on a one-on-one basis, and he would whisper it to that individual.
So not call him out in front of everybody
No,
else.
the other guy, what he told me was that the other guys would walk in a room and go, "Everybody, take 3 demerits." So it's like there's 50 guys in a room, everybody takes 3. That's 150 that he just racked up, right? Oh, but my dad would see the infraction and address the infraction of the person who's committing it, right? And then whisper it. And so he would have a sharp crew, because when he gave out a demerit, it really meant something.
Right. It wasn't just, I'm going to do some discipline here to show you who I am, and some pound in the chest kind of stuff.
Exactly. And I bet
fantastic.
that came from him working through, being enlisted first and then becoming an officer.
Well, I'll tell you, you've heard what I think about going in that way. So, who else in your family? Was there anybody else in your family?
My oldest brother.
Okay.
He went actually through the Merchant Marine Academy in it was Kings Point, and it's in Long Island, New York.
Okay. Long Island.
Yeah. So he went into the Navy after that. So 4 years through the Merchant Marine Academy is one of the 5 military academies, and so after that he went to the Navy, active duty, and then he applied for law school, got a law degree, and while he was in law degree he went reserve, and then after that he was reserve. But I believe he'll probably correct me if he's watching these. I think he made.
I wonder, are you watching these? If you're not, you should be.
I think he made it to commander.
So did he do 20 years as well?
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least 20 years. It might have been a little bit longer because it was reserve.
Okay.
But he was living in California, and at one time he had I don't know what they call him in the Navy, but he was assigned to a group in Houston. So even here, so
oh wow.
So his weekend deal, he had to fly to Houston and do his weekend deal out there. But his specialty was oil tankers. So he got to drive oil tankers, and at one time he was in one of the fleets. He was one of the only ones in the reserve that had a license to drive tankers into combat.
Oh wow.
So it was
Wow.
kind of interesting. And a side story to that, when he was in college, his year at sea was on the Valdez.
Was he there when
It was a couple of years before, but he knew the crew.
he knew the crew?
Yeah.
Did he happen to know the captain and any of the
He knew
scuttlebutt on that whole?
He knew the captain, and he has his own opinion, but it wouldn't be right for me to say.
Probably
any of
not
that,
something
so.
that we put out here. That,
But it was pretty much, because we used to have ball caps that said
Valdez.
on it.
Oh, do you still have that? That's a
No,
good
I
one.
didn't. When I sold it at a swap meet.
Wow.
And when I realized when the guy walked away and he put the hat on after I sold it for 50 cents, right? He put it on, I read it, and that's when it clicked on what that hat was and why that guy was so happy to find it, and turned around and left, and I was like, what am I doing?
So for those of you that are maybe too young to remember, the Valdez was a big oil tanker ship that did it actually sink? It didn't
No,
sink.
just
It just
ran.
leaked off of.
It ran into, I think it ran into the ground or something like that up in Alaska.
And started leaking. Huge
Lots of
oil spill in Alaska.
Yeah.
Now running into the ground, I think it might have been steered anyway. We'll leave that one for the
Whatever it is.
Googling Valdez to see exactly what happened on that.
Yeah, but he was not on the ship when it happened. It was a few years before when he was the intern, so he was one of the guys, getting his hands dirty on that. But,
Okay, cool.
And then I have cousins that are in the military right now.
Thank you for your service, all of you.
I actually had he was a grand uncle. So my dad's, I guess it was above my dad's generation on my mom's side. It was in the military, and he was part of the Inspector General staff for the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
And he was a 1-star general. And when I
So you have a General Walsh in your...
no, it was
your mom's side.
Yeah, it was General Armando de Leon.
Armando de Leon.
Yeah, he actually
Sounds
came
like
up.
somebody that came from the Mexican-American War.
He actually came up when I was in college. I was in ROTC, and he came up and was the guest speaker at our dining out.
Nice. Fantastic.
So that was kind of, it was good to have the uncle to be your general type of thing. Or
Yeah, I'll
your
bet.
uncle to be a general. So,
Anything, what do they say? It's who you know as much as what you know in the military.
yeah, yep. So
Cool.
So that was kind of the family thing. So we have lots of folks in the military. I think every nephew in the Navy. I've got a cousin. I think he's second lieutenant. Might be first lieutenant now. Second lieutenant. He was probably he's in the Army.
Okay.
So he's still active. So very, very deep family in the
Great.
military. Yep.
Good. This is a good weekend then for you.
Yep. Definitely. And your first-hand experience?
Yeah, so I think in my family it really started at my mother and father's generation.
Mm-hmm.
The generation before that were actually on both sides were immigrants that came from Europe. And so there's a story there that I don't know all of in terms of if they were actually leaving the military. But my parents' generations on both sides, so my mom's side of the family, she's the youngest, most of her brothers actually were in World War II. The Navy and the Air Force, so they were actually actively there. And then my mom's sister's husband, he was a pilot, a full career for, I think 30 years. But he was a pilot in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Uncle Jim, crazy man. He was one wild dude, let me just say that. And then my dad was in the Army. My uncle, his brother was in the Army. His other brother was in the Navy. Another uncle in the Army who was in Vietnam. He's my godfather, Uncle Walt. But my dad had a real big experience in the Army. He actually went to basic training and was heading to Korea after he'd done AIT. But on his way back from basic training to quick home to do a quick little R&R after basic training, they got in a car accident, a really massive one, killed 2 people in the car. And he ended up in the hospital for 9 months. Almost didn't make it. He had lots of injuries, was in a coma for a long time. But the interesting thing was, he had about a 2-year enlistment is what I think it was. So obviously 9 months is a big piece of that.
Yeah.
Hadn't gone to AIT. He was going for communications, so he'd have been pulling wire in Korea. But since he was there that long, they flipped his MOS in the Army to medical. And so he actually just, after he got out of the hospital, he stayed in a medical unit and got a whole bunch of hands-on training for it, did all kinds of things in that. It's interesting because when I was growing up, our generation, and I don't know in your generation if it was so, in my family, and we have a big family, our generation, a lot of them just didn't have anything to do with the military.
Yeah.
In fact, as it turns out, only myself and one other cousin in my generation actually joined the military. And I would have been the last person probably of my family, friends, maybe even planet, of someone thinking that I was going to join the military, because I was pretty, I guess in college I was...
You're a baby boomer?
I am.
So you must be on the tail end.
Very tail end of that. And I was just, I was caught up in the whirlwind of a lot of politics of the time, and
Yeah.
I had no interest in the. But when I got out of school, my uncle and my father and my other uncles always said, "Hey, you should join the military." And I said, "Right, right." I did. I did as a Spanish linguist, and I'm very thankful that I did it for obvious reasons. I met my wife down in Panama, and that's been pretty incredible. And now, two of my children are my son Connor is in the Army, and my daughter Giovanna was in the Navy. She was over in Italy for 3 years, and Connor was in the 82nd in Fort Bragg, which is where I was in Fort Bragg. I was in the 82nd and then over at 18th Airborne Corps. So
Very cool.
So yeah, it's been, there's a real kind of camaraderie of talking to people that have been connected to or in the military.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you knew this, but did you know that only 1% of the United States ever
Goes in the military?
joined the military?
I didn't know that.
I
thought it was a
didn't
lot
either.
higher.
I thought it was a lot bigger as well. It's a very small group
That's
of
interesting.
people.
Yeah, that is
go.
interesting to think about that. I as you were talking, I remembered a couple people I probably shouldn't have forgotten.
What's that? Who are they?
Well, my father-in-law. He was in the Army.
Yeah, don't forget that. Especially, how could you forget the Army? I mean, for crying out loud.
Yeah, and then my godfather was an officer in the Marine Corps,
Oh wow.
and so
Okay.
he was a tough guy.
Was he?
Yeah, he's not doing so well now, but man, he's definitely a tough guy.
Is he up in age or?
Yeah, up in age. He's I think pushing 78, 79.
Okay.
So I know and I hope he's doing well. Last I heard, he was in and out of the hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Now, was he also career?
He was career.
Okay, that
Yep.
can be
And
just a tough life.
I did have an uncle that was in the Air National Guard down in Arizona. He was career. He passed at young age. And then my dad's stepfather, so kind of a grandfather to me, he was in the Army, and he was actually a survivor of the Battle of the Bulge.
Man.
So
Did you ever get to talk stories with him?
No, I didn't know.
Wow.
So when he passed, it had been a couple of years. My dad had gone up to his folks' place to clean up because he was the last one from my grandmother and him. And when he came across his records, his military records, and did a little bit more digging, and actually ordered his medals and put a little plaque together of what he did. And that's when he learned that he served in the battle.
Wow.
And so it was kind of, but if I had known, I would have been all over those questions.
That would have been something else.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting, as you're speaking there, I also just forgot some people. Not in the U.S. Army, but let's face it, military is military, right? My wife's father is career Army for the Peruvian military, and he had a long career. Gosh, I think approaching 40 years, 35 at least. He retired at a general status in the Peruvian. He's a colonel, but he retired general. They retire one pay grade up anyway. And then my brother-in-laws are lieutenant colonels and colonels. So my father-in-law is Jorge Salcedo de Moron, and my brother-in-law is Carlos, and then Fernando and Miguel. So cheers to all of you guys as well, military anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Well, let me just. We're probably going to wrap this up, right?
We do. Yeah.
So let me just end it with, what's your favorite military movie? What's your...
Well, I have a lot. I love military.
So do I. We should watch
actually,
one after this.
it's war movies, right?
Yeah.
It's really because I actually watched some military movies and they just don't quite.
No, not documentary kind of stuff.
Well, no, even the regular shows. There's a few out there that are military and they're not documentary, but they tell a story. It's just not quite.
Yeah.
Man, you know I like Saving Private Ryan and Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
If you go back to some of the older ones,
Mine's The Guns of Navarone.
Yeah.
And Where Eagles Dare. Remember Where Eagles Dare? And
The Dirty Dozen.
The Dirty Dozen.
Yep.
Wow,
And
that's
then,
the classic.
The bridge, River Kwai.
Bridge over River Kwai.
Yep. So-
Tora Tora. Have you seen that recently? You should watch that again. Because
Yeah.
Midway just came out.
Now Midway, that's
Classic.
That one's really
I agree.
good. But
I
there's one that I watched just recently on whatever online show, and every time I watch it, I just get impressed with it, and it's Hacksaw Ridge.
I saw that as well. I think that's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was that with Mel Gibson? Was it? Or am I missing that?
No. Hacksaw Ridge is a newer one. It's where the guy doesn't want to touch a rifle.
Oh yeah, he's a whatchamacallit, because he's
Well, he's a medic in the.
he's a Quaker, isn't he? Or he's
no.
he's one of his religion. He's a conscientious objector
Yeah.
in the military.
Yep.
And he gets a Medal of Honor or something, doesn't he? I think
Yeah.
it's based on a true story.
It's a true story, and he
That's
he serves
right.
as a medic
It's a great one.
and
It's
just
a great
goes
one.
and pulls like 100 guys off
Yeah.
this ridge one night.
That
And
is
it's,
a great one.
And I was just go get one more.
Yeah.
Just go get one more, and
Yeah.
it was just really impressive that one more. So
Yeah.
if we wanted to tie this back to a self-development, right? Just
go get
one more, right?
No,
So,
that's a great one.
yeah.
1917. I don't know if you saw that. That's the most
That
recent
was-
one.
that
I
was
liked that
good.
too.
Yeah, but I have
But-
to say Midway, that remake. Of
Oh,
Midway
yeah.
was really good.
It was
I'm
classic.
gonna have to watch that one this
Yeah,
week, I think.
that's a great idea. Well, I tell you, I think that's a great way to end it too. Of course, please get people to subscribe to us. We need a lot more subscribers, as many as we can get, of course. And like it. Tell your
Yep.
friends and family.
Put your flag out this weekend.
Yeah, do. And just go get one more. What a mantra for living in these times. You know, go get one more person to make them smile. Cheers, Steve.
Cheers.